The sky itself seemed to crack as the Xeravan launched their final assault. Hundreds of ships, colossal, insectoid warships larger than any city, descended toward Earth's atmosphere. They moved as one, a swarm of death, their sharp angles and iridescent armor gleaming with malice. In the distance, the rift in the sky pulsed with a rhythm that was almost alive. But Lyra was no longer a child. The golden script on her body flared brighter than the sun. The dogs, her ancient guardians, each now a terrifying fusion of bioengineering and forgotten technologies, positioned themselves like living bastions around her. They were no longer mere companions. They were weapons, and they were hungry. Around them, Earth's defenses lit up. Lasers, gravity waves, and electromagnetic pulses erupted from the ground, forming an impenetrable network of light and energy. The first wave of ships collided with it, shaking the earth, sending ripples of destruction through cities, but it held. The sky burned with brilliance, like a second sun, but humanity stood firm. Lyra's eyes met the rift above her. She whispered something, too quiet for any human to hear. Then she raised her hand, and the rift quivered. The ground beneath them shook, and the first Xeravan ship plummeted into the shield, its outer shell shattering in a glorious burst of light. But this was only the beginning. The second wave came, crashing down with the weight of 1,000 armies. Their weapons crackled with cosmic energy, warheads that could turn a planet to dust. The air shimmered with the force of their impact. And yet, Earth held. Lyra was the anchor. As the ships dove toward her, she did not retreat. Her guardians, her dogs, now glowed with the same ancient light, their bodies shifting into forms that defied understanding. They met the oncoming ships, tearing through their hulls like paper, leaving the invaders screaming into the void. The battle raged across the sky and ground, but Earth was no longer alone. Humanity fought back with an unyielding resolve. They watched as the Xeravan fell, their ships breaking apart in midair, their weapons useless against the combined might of Earth's people and the beacon Lyra had carried. With every explosion, with every ship torn asunder, Lyra's presence grew stronger. She became something more, not just a girl, but a force, an ancient being made flesh, the culmination of humanity's defiance. The last Xeravan ship, the one that had commanded the swarm, hesitated. It hovered above Earth, its sensors scanning the wreckage, calculating its odds. But it found no weakness. Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear and final. "We do not surrender. We never surrender." And then, in a burst of golden light, she unleashed the final strike. Her guardians, the creatures she had called into existence, converged into a single entity, a massive wave of pure energy, glowing with the power of 1,000 suns. The ship tried to retaliate, but it was too late. The explosion was blinding. And when the light faded, the sky was clear. Earth had won. And standing in the center of it all, amidst the smoke and ruins, Lyra gazed upward. Her eyes were no longer glowing, but calm, serene. The battle was over. The Xeravan had been defeated. Humanity had fought for its place in the universe, and they had earned it. Lyra turned to the gathered survivors. The neighborhood had been reduced to rubble, but the spirit of defiance had remained untouched. "They will not return," she said softly, her voice filled with a strange sadness. "But you will remember, and you will build." And as she walked away, the dogs by her side, the world began to rebuild, with one simple truth echoing in the hearts of all who had witnessed the battle. Humanity was not just a species anymore. It was a force to be reckoned with. The first Xeravan spearship broke through Earth's atmosphere at 3:16 a.m. It came in silent. No sonic boom, no warning siren. Just a sudden rupture in the sky, as if the fabric of space had been torn and something ancient poured through. It shimmered like obsidian, pulsing with hive-like energy, and descended straight toward the beacon. Lyra stood unmoving. She was barefoot now, the glowing script along her skin, trailing through the grass like fireflies caught in a magnetic field. Her eyes were white-hot. The silver dogs growled, low, harmonic tones that vibrated through concrete and bone. Around her, Earth's defenses braced. A gravity net ignited, a lattice of folded space beams projected from hastily built towers. The first spearship struck the field like a hammer, and the world shook, but it held. Then came the rest. Dozens, hundreds, a swarm of jagged vessels streaking from the rift like knives flung by a vengeful god. They weren't ships in the human sense. They were engines of extinction. Living, sentient weapons designed to cleanse. But Earth had changed. Satellite relays, rebuilt with Lyra's guidance, blinked into synchronization. From underground bunkers and rooftop turrets, humanity answered with gravity-piercing lances, atmosphere-slicing projectiles, and orbital repellers that turned the sky into a fortress. Mr. Renfield led ground coordination, shouting orders like it was second nature. He stood beside Mrs. Kowalski, who, despite her age, was piloting a converted wheelchair-turned-artillery console. People across the globe watched the live stream, breath held, as the beacon's neighborhood became the battlefield of Earth's soul. And still, Lyra stood silent, until one of the ships broke through the shield net. It screamed toward the ground, fangs unfolding, aimed straight for her. The dogs reacted first. In a blur of motion, they launched upward, not leaping, but flying, suspended by unknown propulsion. Mid-air, they shifted. Fur burned away, plates extended, and in seconds they became warforms, part beast, part machine, all fury. They collided with the descending ship. The explosion lit the sky white, and in the aftermath, as debris fell like ash, Lyra raised her hands. Her voice, amplified and harmonic, cut across Earth. Now you see us. Now you face us. We are the last shelter, and we do not break. Above, the swarm paused, then screamed louder. The final wave was coming, and humanity, standing behind the girl with fire in her eyes, prepared to meet it. The rift widened. It was like a scar carved into the sky, bleeding light no human eye was meant to see. Shapes flickered behind it, massive, shifting, insectile things, silhouetted against a seething red backdrop. The Exervon had arrived. Not just scouts. A fleet. News spread quickly. The transmission had been a warning, but Earth had no time left. Cities lit up with panic, but something strange was happening in that little neighborhood on 8th Street. They weren't running. Instead, they prepared. Lyra stood in the center of the park, a small figure now surrounded by military tents, humming generators, and engineers working around her like she was ground zero for something far bigger than a child. She wasn't the command. She was the key. A beacon encoded into living flesh. Across her skin, faint golden lines began to appear. Glowing script that moved like liquid light, flowing up her neck, across her cheeks, into her eyes. She never cried. She never blinked. But her presence pulsed stronger by the hour. The dogs, now confirmed to be bioengineered guardians from a long-dead civilization, stood at the edge of the gathering like ancient sentries, growling at things no one else could see. It was Mr. Renfield who proposed it. If Earth is the last stand, then we make it one they remember. The neighborhood became the front line of resistance. Old Mrs. Creighton welded signal dishes to her roof. Teenagers strung infrared tripwires through the trees. Even children helped pass parts to engineers assembling strange machinery reverse-engineered from Lyra's subconscious. Because the beacon wasn't just a target, it was a blueprint. Lyra remembered technologies Earth had never invented, and humanity, scrappy and relentless, did what it always did best. It adapted. With her knowledge, they built cannons that could bend gravity, nets that could catch ships in orbit, and shields that pulsed with alien resilience. The military watched in awe as civilians, working beside a girl who was both child and artifact, forged defenses Earth had never dreamed of. And all the while, Above them, the rift began to pulse. The Exirivon weren't waiting. They were gathering. And soon, they would descend. But this time, humanity wasn't fractured. This time, Earth was united, around a girl and her two impossible dogs, standing quietly in the eye of the storm. It came at 2:37 a.m. A piercing metallic shriek tore through the skies above Earth. Not a sound through air, but through devices. Phones, televisions, radios, even baby monitors snapped to life, hissing static before a voice echoed through them all. It was cold, layered, and entirely alien. Surrender the beacon, or be harvested. The message repeated in every major language on Earth. Then the transmission cut, leaving silence in its wake. The world erupted into chaos. Military forces scrambled. Governments went dark. Conspiracy forums exploded overnight. No one knew what the beacon was. Not scientists, not generals, not even historians. But in one quiet neighborhood, the people did know. Because they'd seen her walk by every morning with glowing-eyed guardians at her side. And now they understood why. The next morning, the entire neighborhood waited outside. Not hidden behind curtains, not trembling, just waiting. Lyra didn't change her routine. She appeared at 7:00 a.m., stepping onto the sidewalk like clockwork. But this time, she paused. Dozens of neighbors stood there, watching her, not with fear anymore, but quiet, urgent hope. Mr. Renfield stepped forward first. "Is it you?" he asked. "Are you the beacon?" Lyra tilted her head slightly, as if listening to a sound no one else could hear. Then she answered, "I carry the beacon. It's encoded in me. I am the last failsafe, the trigger they couldn't erase." Her dogs shifted, eyes burning brighter. She continued, her voice steady and ancient. "The Exirivon destroyed my creators, burned 100 worlds to find what I carry. Earth is the last. They never thought humanity would shelter something not of his blood. But you did." Mrs. Kowalski stepped forward. "Why a child?" she asked softly. Lyra looked at her, eyes suddenly filled with an emotion that seemed too big for her frame. Because children pass unnoticed. They walk freely, and hope always hides in the smallest places. Above them, clouds twisted unnaturally. A rift began to shimmer in the sky, distant but growing. Lyra turned back to the crowd. "The beacon has awakened. Earth must decide. Cower or stand. I cannot shield you alone." Mr. Renfield didn't hesitate. "Then you won't stand alone." Others nodded. Farmers, teachers, programmers, parents. They were human, and they were ready. Above them, the stars watched. And for the first time, humanity stared back. The neighborhood had grown quiet. Not just hushed, watchful, tense, like prey sensing the shadow of a predator just beyond the tree line. Every morning, they watched from behind curtains as Lyra walked, and every morning she passed without pause. Her silver guardians remained impossibly alert, scanning rooftops, windows, the air itself. Then the blackout hit, at exactly 7:03 a.m., 2 minutes after Lyra began her walk. The entire block plunged into darkness. Power, cell service, even backup generators failed in unison. No storm, no warning, just a sharp electrical pop, and then silence. At that same moment, a scream tore through the neighborhood. It came from the Andrews house. Their youngest, 6-year-old Owen, had gone missing. 1 second playing in the front yard, the next, gone. No trace, no sound, no footsteps. Panic erupted. Parents rushed into the street. Flashlights flickered in the gray morning light. Mr. Andrews shouted himself hoarse. But no one could find the boy. Until Lyra arrived. She stepped through the crowd like a ripple through water, the dogs parting people with sheer presence alone. No one stopped her. No one could. She didn't speak until she reached Owen's frantic mother. "He's not far," Lyra said softly, her voice strangely resonant, like it echoed from a deeper place. But you cannot follow. You would not come back whole. Before anyone could respond, she turned toward the tree line and whistled once. A sharp, clear note. The dogs shifted. Their bodies rippled, metal gleaming just beneath the fur, and they dashed into the woods, faster than any living animal should have been able to move. The world seemed to hold its breath. 3 minutes passed, then 5. Then they returned, with Owen, unharmed, nestled calmly between them like a child waking from a nap. Lyra knelt, checked him gently, then stood and turned to the stunned parents. "He'll sleep deeply tonight," she said. "Don't wake him. His mind needs time to forget what tried to speak to it." The crowd stood frozen. "What took him?" Someone whispered. Lyra's gaze turned skyward. "They're scouting," she murmured. "Probing defenses, looking for cracks." Then she walked on, dogs at her side. That night, no one slept. And for the first time, more than one neighbor stood watch from their rooftops, not out of fear, but because they knew. They weren't alone anymore. But at least now, they had her. By the 3rd week, the fear had changed. It wasn't just anxiety anymore. It was fascination. Uneasy, compulsive fascination. No one could look away. Something about the way Lyra moved, about how the air felt colder as she passed, kept them tethered to their windows every morning, like moths watching a flame, unable to understand whether it was warmth or death. And then came the symbols. It was Mr. Patol who first noticed the pattern. A quiet man who walked his dog before dawn. He was adjusting his thermal camera, his hobby, he claimed, when he aimed it at the sidewalk Lyra used every day. There were markings, intricate glyphs scorched faintly into the concrete, invisible to the naked eye. Circles, lines, sharp triangles overlapping in impossible symmetry. At first, he thought it was just a quirk of the camera. But the next day, the pattern changed and moved slightly forward, like it was walking with her. He didn't tell the others, not right away. But that night, he dreamed of a great, burning eye suspended over Earth, and he wasn't the only one. Several neighbors began reporting strange, shared dreams, not quite nightmares, more like memories. They spoke of vast starships torn apart by black tendrils, of a war in the void where entire planets were used as weapons, and always, always, a childlike voice whispering, "We failed them once. We will not fail again." Even the skeptical Mrs. Brunner, a lifelong atheist and die-hard rationalist, began leaving salt lines at her windowsills. "Just in case," she muttered, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. Mr. Renfield was the first to act. His old instincts kicked in. He pulled out a locked briefcase buried in his garage. Inside were clippings, redacted files, and one ancient photo of a stone tablet uncovered on Mars. The glyph on the tablet, identical to the ones on Lyra's sidewalk path. He stared at the image. His mouth went dry. That symbol, it was codenamed the Primordial Lock. He glanced out the window. Lyra was walking by again, her glowing-eyed guardians flanking her like living statues. "She's not from here," he whispered. Then added, almost reverently, "But she's not here to hurt us. She's here because they are coming." It started as a joke. "Maybe she's training them for dog shows," someone posted in the neighborhood group chat. "Or maybe she's a robot, and those are alien wolves," someone else added, tossing in a gif of UFOs and laughing emojis. But the laughter didn't last. By the end of the week, Mr. Ellison, who prided himself on his cutting-edge drone setup, decided to follow Lyra's morning walk from above. He launched it from his attic at 6:58 a.m., watching the live feed as she appeared right on time, the silver beasts flanking her like silent shadows. Everything was fine, for 15 seconds. Then the feed glitched. Not lag, not interference. It was scrambled. Geometric patterns and flashes of symbols he didn't recognize, like circuitry or runes. He tried to override it, to pull the drone back, but it dropped from the sky like a stone, sparking on the sidewalk. He recovered it personally. Its battery was melted. The memory card, blank, completely wiped. More incidents followed. A curious jogger tried to match Lyra's pace from the other side of the street. One moment he was mid-stride. The next he was sitting on the curb, holding his head and bleeding from the nose, unable to recall the last 10 minutes. A delivery driver slowed to watch her pass one morning. His dashcam recorded 32 seconds of footage before the screen turned to static. When reviewed, the final frame showed both dogs staring straight at the lens, their eyes glowing with a searing white light, unnatural and angular, like searchlights designed to cut through reality itself. After that, the neighborhood's tone changed. The morning joggers stopped jogging. Curtains no longer fluttered open with curiosity. They remained tightly drawn. Porch lights stayed on, even after sunrise. And the group chat went silent for days. No more memes, no more jokes, only silence and the occasional ominous update. Mrs. Creighton, who hadn't believed in anything stranger than yoga crystals, was overheard whispering, "She's not walking dogs. She's guarding something. Or worse, something's guarding her." Only Mr. Renfield, the former Army colonel with eyes like steel and a past wrapped in black tape and redacted files, seemed composed. "She's not the threat," he muttered to himself one morning, staring out his window at the girl and her companions as they turned the corner. "She's the warning." Every morning, without fail, she appeared. At precisely 7:00 a.m., just as the sunlight spilled over the rooftops of Maple Glen, a little girl in a bright pink jacket and worn-out sneakers strolled down the cracked sidewalk with two enormous dogs in tow. Her name, according to the mailbox in front of the crooked old house on 8th Street, was Lyra. She looked no older than 9. Her hair was always braided neatly. Her expression, unreadable. The dogs, if that's what they were, looked nothing like anything in any kennel. They were massive, easily outweighing her 3-to-1, with sleek silver-gray fur that shimmered strangely under the sun. Their eyes glowed faintly, not reflecting light but emitting it, a soft amber hue that never dimmed. They moved in perfect synchronization, heads level, ears forward, paws silent despite their size. At first, the neighbors thought it was cute. Mr. Brenton waved every morning from his porch. "Morning, Lyra. Beautiful dogs," he'd say. She never responded, just nodded. That polite, tight-lipped nod. The birds would stop singing when she passed. Cats vanished from windowsills. Dogs inside nearby houses whimpered and backed away from the glass. It was subtle at first, the unease like the tickle of an oncoming storm. But the sense of wrongness grew, day by day. Mrs. Kowalski was the first to notice something truly off. She was an old dog trainer, ran a kennel for 30 years. One morning, she leaned over her fence to get a better look at the pair. "Now that's not normal," she whispered. "Real dogs don't march like that." As if hearing her, one of the silver beasts turned its head sharply and locked eyes with her. Just a glance. But it was enough. She collapsed. They found her slumped by the fence, heart racing like she'd run a marathon. Her tears spilled across the grass. When paramedics arrived, she kept muttering the same phrase. "That wasn't a dog. That wasn't a dog." Still, Lyra walked the next morning, same as ever. And now, no one waved. They only watched, from behind curtains, with held breath, with a growing sense that something ancient had settled in their neighborhood, and it had chosen the form of a little girl in a pink jacket, walking not dogs, but guardians of something far, far greater.